Hey everyone, I wanted to do a separate video of this eaves drop that I made for $0 with some scrap. Do you use rainwater to water your garden, or are you considering using rainwater? If so, I suggest you measure the pH of both your rainwater and city water to determine which one would best suit your preferences. I created a separate video for those of us gardeners who will be using rainwater for gardening purposes, and I completed a pH test for my city and rainwater because I've noticed not many gardeners talk about or suggest measuring rainwater over city water. And being cognizant of the different pH levels between our rainwater and city water. I'll post the link to that video in the description, and you also see a thumbnail for it at the end of this video. So you could use scrap eaves drop if you can find it. This is, the sun's right in there. This is framing, aluminum framing for walls that I found in scrap in a dumpster. I'm not sure what was wrong with it exactly, but it looked fine to me. So all I did was cut these small pieces. They're about 1.5 foot pieces that I just pressed inside each other, and then I drilled those into the side of the shed. And I obviously checked the level as I went along to make sure that my slope, I always had a slope. But what I also did was started from that end, and then I went up and up, and I made sure as I went up I was always going higher, and that my slope was appropriate for where I was starting and where I was ending. So what I would suggest is maybe start with your lowest, because your side of the bottom of the roof, if it's like this, it's only about a 2-inch height that you could work with. So I would suggest you drill in your lowest piece at the bottom of that 2 inches, and then make every consecutive piece a little bit higher. So as I walk, you'll see there's more space under the pieces, because they're getting higher and higher. The slope gets higher up, and so my last piece is pretty much as high as it could be to the shingles, to the roofing itself, right? So that is basically engineering behind the eavesdropping. And then this is obviously the top part and the bottom, the base of this container. So all I did was cut slits in the corners to make it go over. Put a screw in here to hold it onto the bottom part, and then you can go crazy, could get creative with what you have here to stop, animals, or you won't get much animals trying to go down through there, but if they do, they would come out. So I'm not just too concerned with that. For me, it was mostly like big chunks of leaves, which I already cleaned out of this. I don't know if there's still some in there down there, but you can. So what I didn't do was screw the back part of this backside into those screws there with the backside. That would be a good idea, but then you would just have to undo this one in the front on occasion to clean out built up debris that does get in there. But like I said, you could be more creative here with like some scrap screening or something that you could fasten onto this piece of shingle before you even put it up. That will make sure none of those leaves, none of that scrap like seeds and whatever little branches will end up in there. The water still goes through even if some stuff does get in there, and even if it overflows, I'm not too worried because it's just a small roof. It's not a lot of water flow, and so whatever extra is there, like it's literally maybe 6-7 foot by 15 roof that I'm collecting the water on. So if you notice problems, you can always amend as you need to, right? So I just have, this sterilite tote that the water is going into, and then I usually keep a weight on there, which is more than enough. So hopefully this thing will sprout for me again. This will pop. It's a perennial flower, but you can put whatever you want. A brick, lots of stuff. A log. Maybe you can get fasteners if you don't want to cut. Like I didn't want to cut the lid for this because I'm not sure how long I want to do this for, or how long we'll be renting here at my place. What's cool about this setup is the tote is on an angle going toward the opening here, so any extra water that drips down onto here, or that's like another couple square feet of catchment that will end up in the bucket as well if there's not a lot of rain. But most rainfalls, like it fills up and it even overflows a bit, so that's another thing you want to make sure of. I haven't had issues with like contamination really. You get like the soot and sediment at the bottom, but I've never seen any like surface mold, or a full tote here would last me literally two or 3 days in watering my garden. So a lot of the times, like, it's not enough to always be watering with rainwater. I do it as much as possible, but it's definitely not sufficient, like, in and of itself. So I don't have any issues with mold spores or I don't know, build up on the water of any sorts, even with a little opening with, like, raccoons or something trying to go bathe in there. You would find fur and poop around and stuff. That's not an issue, although we do have raccoons. So what else? This is just PVC pipe. You have to make sure the container before you start cutting it up is going to the male part, the neck, the spout of your container is going to fit inside the PVC that you're using. And so I screwed two screws here, one on both sides. So I just wanted to add that I cut these framing, these aluminum wall framing pieces into like 1.5 foot pieces, because every like 2 feet or so there's electrical holes to run wiring through the walls. I think that's what they're for. Anyway, obviously that wouldn't work with water passing over, so I just covered them with the other piece. So instead of wasting the track part here, cutting the holes completely off, and then I would have had to still have another piece that I would have had to press into this piece, so it would have been like those couple of inches would have been lost, and the next piece would have been, so it would have been less coverage, I think. But anyway, you could You could use a lot of things for this eavesdropping, you know, be creative, even if you're temporarily using also wanted to add that I don't like to use transparent bins for water. That's temporary. I don't normally do that. I don't like the sun getting into the water, and because it's still water, it's like leaving bottled water, right? Even though we're not drinking it like our plants are. So I just prefer to take better measures where possible. So you also don't want to be having a black bin, because you know, black attracts heat, absorbs heat, and your water will end up probably being too hot for your plants during the heat of summer. In zone 5 here, our summer temperatures go up to 30, low 30s. Yeah, I like to make sure I'm only sharing different, unique, and new content to YouTube. Do my best. I mean, I didn't look into this, but for a lot of the other videos I post, I do a lot of research on YouTube first to make sure that I'm not kind of redoing videos that have already been 100 times done. This has been another Sun's Out production.